Hello, welcome back to my podcast. Today, let's talk about the ruler named God Emperor Leto II, who has ruled the empire for 3,500 years, a period also known as the Peace of Leto. During this time, due to the scarcity of spice, various interest groups within the empire were unable to travel in space or confront each other, and were restricted to their own planets. The culture of the Fremen people underwent fundamental changes, and the planet Arrakis has become lush and green, very different from its previous desert environment. The ecological transformation of the dunes led to the extinction of all sandworms, leaving Sarir as the only remaining desert on Arrakis, where the God Emperor's castle is located. With the extinction of the sandworms, Leto II became the only person controlling the spice. By controlling the remaining spice supply, he was able to fully control human civilization according to his ideology. Over the years, the God Emperor's body gradually merged with the sandworm, transforming into a sandworm form except for his face and arms. His legs degenerated and became useless, and although he could move and roll at an amazing speed, it was painful if he accidentally pressed on his legs. For this reason, the God Emperor relied on a mechanical vehicle equipped with hovercraft and wheels for movement, which was equipped with various daily use devices, including a recorder for keeping diaries. Although Leto II had immortal life and very accurate predictive abilities, he could easily unleash violence instinctively when provoked. Under the guidance of the Golden Path, he became a ruthless tyrant. Meanwhile, the continuous emergence of rebellions within the empire laid the groundwork for future problems. With the disappearance of the sandworms, the God Emperor was the only connection to the sandworms that once produced spice. Sandworms would split into many small sand trouts in water, which would eventually grow into sandworms. But this process would take thousands of years. If the God Emperor died in a place without water, the existence of spice would also become history. Therefore, the Spacing Guild was worried every day, fearing any incidents that might threaten the safety of the God Emperor. The Peace of Leto was a necessary step towards the Golden Path, and another main goal of the Golden Path was to control the breeding program. The God Emperor took over the Bene Gesserit's breeding program. This program introduced genes intended to free humans from predictive abilities, to prevent anyone with such genes from being killed by predators with predictive abilities, and also to protect all those with the genes from the rule and predictive manipulation of future tyrants. Simply put, the Bene Gesserit breeding program aimed to create an all-knowing God, while the God Emperor's breeding program aimed to create a group of ordinary people who are invisible to gods. This invisible gene first manifested in Siona Atreides, who is a descendant of Gehenna and Faradin. Although Leto II has lived for thousands of years, his sister and wife, Gehenna, remains a normal human. The God Emperor firmly believes that his Golden Path must continue, and now needs to take a new step, as only his death can restore the natural ecology of Arrakis. Siona's father, Moneo Atreides, was the God Emperor's most trusted advisor and steward. For years, Moneo tried to overthrow the God Emperor from his throne, but eventually saw the end of humanity in the illusions of spice, and thus became the God Emperor's most loyal servant. Siona inherited her father's rebellious spirit and could not tolerate the atrocities committed by the God Emperor to maintain his power. So she secretly initiated a covert operation against this tyrant, seeking ways to end his rule. With the God Emperor's tacit approval, Siona stole the blueprints of the fortress and his diaries. During her journey through the Forbidden Forest, 10 of her companions were killed by D-wolves. D-wolves, fierce predators living around the fortress, are genetically engineered creatures almost as tall as humans, with extremely sharp vision and they pursue all intruders, making it nearly impossible for anyone to escape from them. The God Emperor sometimes calls himself a predator, viewing humans as prey, which implies that there are creatures with abilities similar to his, hidden in unknown regions outside the Empire. Soon after the God Emperor came to power, he ordered a Duncan Idaho Gola from the Tleilaxu to serve as the commander of the Royal Guard. During the early part of his reign, both the Fremen and Sardaukar armies were commanded by continuously resurrected Duncan Idaho Golas. These Golas were usually killed by the God Emperor himself when they attempted to assassinate him, although sometimes they were allowed to die naturally. After several centuries, even though the army was sufficient for the God Emperor's needs, he ultimately believed that these armies did not align with his ideals of peace. The God Emperor thought that male-dominated armies inherently had a predatory nature and would turn their aggression towards innocent civilians in the absence of external enemies. Women, on the other hand, were gentler and had a natural maternal glow, making them more inclined to serve society as wives and mothers. The loyalty of male armies was based on their allegiance to the army itself, while the loyalty of female armies revolved around their leader. They would instinctively trust and idolize their leader. For these reasons, the God Emperor created a new female army commanded by Duncan Idaho Gola, which he named the Fish Speakers. Since the original priestesses could talk to fish in their dreams, the God Emperor planned to have the new Duncan Gola breed with Siona. Therefore, he ordered the Tleilaxu to create a new Duncan. The current Duncan was worried about being secretly disposed of, as a new Duncan was usually created only after the previous one had died. When the current Duncan tried to meet the God Emperor, his assassination attempt failed, and he was killed by the God Emperor himself. The Ixians, who had secretly provided him with a lasgun to assist in assassinating the God Emperor, were expelled by the God Emperor. The Ixians' economy depended on the manufacture of complex machinery, which sometimes made them disregard the Empire's legal bans on creating machines. After a brief period of mourning, the Tleilaxu sent a new Duncan Idaho Gola. The new Duncan was shocked by the changes in the universe, as most Duncan Idaho Golas only possessed the memories of the original Duncan. The capital of Arrakis, Arrakeen, now called On, holds a grand celebration every 10 years. A sudden downpour saved Siona and revealed the God Emperor's fatal weakness to water. As the rain poured, blue smoke began rising from the God Emperor's body as he twisted in extreme pain. The rain came quickly and left just as fast. After the downpour, the God Emperor explained to her the connection between sandworms, sand trout, and water. After enduring the harsh trials of the desert, Siona met Duncan again. Her deep hatred for the God Emperor led them to find a common goal, deciding to exploit the God Emperor's weakness to water to plan an assassination. During the God Emperor's wedding procession across a high bridge over the Idaho River, Siona's assistant Nayla, also an undercover fish speaker for the God Emperor, was ordered by the God Emperor to obey Siona absolutely, even if it meant assassinating him. Nayla saw this as the ultimate test by the God Emperor. Siona had prepared everything to demonstrate a miracle, just waiting for her command. As the wedding procession reached the middle of the bridge, she ordered Nayla to use a lasgun to destroy the bridge's cables and deck. The bridge then tilted and collapsed, trapping the God Emperor's mechanical litter in the broken debris, as Hui Nori said her last goodbye before falling. Steward Maneo heard a dull moan coming from the litter and was puzzled why the God Emperor did not activate the floating device. The continuous buzzing of the lasgun and the flames targeting the litter's canopy created golden smoke. As Moneo fell face down, he experienced a moment of ecstatic realization, understanding that the God Emperor had foreseen that he would fear a world without the God Emperor due to the revelations of the Golden Path. Choosing to leave at this moment might have been one of the most merciful decisions of his life. Right after that, the God Emperor fell into the river. Instantly, his body was enveloped in foam, and he suffered intense pain as his skin burst open, turning into fluorescent raindrops that fell into the river. In a flash, glitter surrounded him, forming a continuously changing, dazzling halo. The shiny sand trout, like scales, fell off his body and began their communal life. Despite the severe pain, the God Emperor instinctively grabbed a rock and rolled up a sandy slope. After a brief rest, he dragged his broken body into a damp cave. Siona and her two companions approached him, with Nayla still stunned from the shock. Because her actions led to the death of Huinori, Duncan, unable to contain his anger, took the laser gun and ended her life. At this point, the God Emperor's skin, once covered with sand trout, had disappeared, revealing his raw, pore-filled flesh. Before dying, the God Emperor revealed his breeding plan and ordered them to flee the area. Siona carried with her the key seeds that would ensure the survival of her and her descendants. She explained that humanity could now freely spread across the universe without fear of total extinction. Although the Ixians could manufacture machines, they could no longer create the music of divine judgment because the real judgment had ended. Eventually, the God Emperor dissolved into a pool of blue liquid amid blue smoke, blurrily retaining the human features he once had. After the God Emperor's death, the empire quickly began to decay, leading to an era of famine that caused countless humans to leave the empire for unknown spaces in the universe. The despair felt by humans who lived through the famine era eventually led to a population explosion throughout the universe. Siona and Duncan had over 1,000 children, of which only 9 were daughters, later known as the 9 daughters of Siona and the 1,000 sons of Idaho. Leto II's consciousness spread to every descendant, every sandworm, every sand trout, continually dividing with his consciousness pearl. He will be lost in an endless dream, waiting to be awakened. All right, that's all for today's podcast. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your super thanks support. Please like and subscribe, and consider joining my members-only podcast. See you in the next episode.